Candidates here at the university. And I'm also here to speak on behalf of my cohort as a whole. It's my honor to welcome you to tonight's installment of the Visiting Artist Lecture. Before we begin, though, I would like to acknowledge that this event is being held on the traditional indigenous homeland of the Kalapuya people, and we extend our respect to the indigenous people of Oregon. Tonight's lecture was initiated and organized by the third-year MFA cohort, who consists of Mary Evans, Anastasia Gutnick, David Pena, Will Zhang, and myself. This is in coordination with the tradition of having each passing third-year cohort invite a lecturer to our community. And we want to thank the college for this opportunity and appreciate your inclusion and generosity in building the program. Our lecturer tonight is Alex DeCorte. He is an internationally recognized artist who lives and works in Philadelphia. DeCorte explores the nuances of contemporary life in his videos, installations, paintings, and sculptures, which are often united together in richly hued, dreamlike environments. With a keen attention to color and form, DeCorte draws from a wide range of sources, including pop culture, art history, and modern design. He carries a rich career, notably included in the 2019 Venice Biennale and the 2018 Carnegie International in Pittsburgh. Recently, he's also been selected for the 2021 Roof Garden Commission at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. I personally encountered DeCorte's work for the first time in 2016 at Mass MoCA, where he showed his exhibition Free Roses. And when the third years and I were trying to decide who to invite to the university, I recommended him because after viewing Free Roses back then as a young undergraduate, I always felt like it was a really integral moment, both in the way that I view art, but also the way it shaped the way I view the world and how I find inspiration within it. So ultimately, the third year cohort did come to the collective decision to invite Alex DeCorte, as we felt his work met all of our shared interests, both materially and conceptually. As his work spans fields of different interests that meet a peculiar junction, we hope that there are moments in his work that also speak to you today. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Alex DeCorte.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Alex DeCorte, and this is The Street. Wherever you go, you are. So speak up, you tiny fool, and I will go gently. There is no such thing as magic, but there is something to be said about invisibility and harnessing the invisible voice within you, the tiny fool, and making it known. It can be at times seemingly impossible, especially if you're a young person, to speak up. There is the notion of the familiar in terms of an invisible presence, a spirit, a daemon, a homunculus, or even a soul that lives inside of us. If the body is a home and the familiar a tenant of the home, let's consider the tenant in relationship to the home and the home in relationship to the street. For example, if the tenant is a good tenant, caring for the home in a Jonesian manner, decorating and performing for the street, then a painted house reflects the inner desires of the home outwardly. A blue house for a cop, say, a purple house for a pit licker. A house festooned in ribbons year long for that of a maniac or a doll. A house with no walls is a sign of accessibility. A house made of neon is a trap. Here, the medium is the message. On the street, we are voyeurs, looking through the eyes of a window in search of the strange or the familiar. I was a stranger. My father, too, a stranger in a strange land. We negotiate our roles, code switching on the regular, either from within the house or on the street. And there can be chaos. Things fall apart. In Venturi Scott Brown's Learning from Las Vegas, they note French philosopher Henry Bergson, who writes, "Disorder is just an order we cannot see." And you huffed. And you puffed. And you tried to blow my house down. But you didn't blow my house down, you just blew me. Right through me. And that, my dear, is why there is a window to better see you with. The year is 1918, and I have invented plate glass. And you ask, what is plate glass? What can it do for me? Well, I'll tell you. Plate glass now can be on the front of a building, a large area of crystal clear. And what can I do with that? They'll break in. Oh, no, they won't. Put an object behind that plate glass. Talk to me about desire. 100 years after this invention, on the heels of Walter Benjamin's Arcades project, he taught us that plate glass paved the way for a new way of looking through a lens. It is why now, in the early part of the 21st century, I imagine this age is the age of glass. And so let's consider the glass age. What is it? Well, the glass age is transparent. The glass age is fragile. The glass age is invisible. The glass age is color. The glass age is capacity. The glass age cuts. The glass age is hot. The glass age absorbs. It absorbs. The glass age reflects. The glass age delays. The glass age holds. The glass age empties. The glass age breathes. The glass age weeps. The glass age protects. It is broken. It is fixed. But it still looks broken. It is okay. It is you. Oh, wait, no. It is me. to be inside the home and also out on the street, to be near and to be far, to be you and to be me, is evidence of the divided self. Here again, the tiny fool at work. This process of becoming oneself, breathing in and breathing out, a sponge, regulating, tap dancing and tiptoeing across the infra-thin line of our desires. And we are always on either one side or another side of our desires. I imagine the animated celluloid as a proxy for this line of desire, the invisible line of a home. The outward-facing painted surface of the celluloid a mask, clean, proper, desirable, nice. The verso side of the celluloid, a wonderful mess of chaos and chance. So what happens when we peel back the skin of our desire? How do we understand the divided self in these terms, moving simultaneously forward and backward, recto and verso, bridging the gap between the person that we were, the person that we want to be, and the person that we really are? Here, Lil Uzi Vert understands me. He understands the divided self. Teaching a class of multiplied figures, divided as if seen through the lens of Etienne Jules Marais or Edward Muybridge, studies of the human body in motion, and we are many bodies in motion. This is life in the glass age. Then how do we understand ourselves clearly? What amount of breaking or rinsing reveals the clearest vantage point? In the new iPhone ads, they feature customers reaching with outstretched arms towards the screen, attempting to break through the glass, combating the flatness, becoming the fluid, being real. But I've seen this before. Was it the Steve Madden ads from the 1990s saying, "Be here now"? Or no, was it further back? Maybe Montaigne's Lamentation of Christ. We just can't get close enough. And maybe we will never get close enough. I press and press against the glass. Will you not come here? Wallace Foley writes of Narcissus. Nature must arrest all change and breathing, so she may grant herself the right of seeing herself, of all her contours, during the terrible present moment of living, so she can become her own double. But one may lose themselves in the analysis of these imaginary actions. Two can play a two-step two, now that I'm following you. We live in utterly violent times, and our lives are not our own. Nature does not arrest change and breathing. So then how do we stand the test of time when nature won't give us a big enough fucking Cheez-It? William Langland wrote, "Patience is a virtue." Of Warhol's scars, he says, they're proof that time exists, that wrinkles happen. Wrinkles are proof that time exists. In the street, graffiti is proof that time exists. Its erasure, a reminder of control. In the night, more violence, more time. In the day, evidence of night. Slow graffiti, slow life. And oh, how my heart cries. You gaze today while you are you. How then tomorrow when you shall be you no more? No more sound again. I'm going to just keep carrying on. I apologize. There is a ghost in this room, and I'm right behind you. Imagine the familiar becoming unfamiliar, filling with air, bursting at the seams. A house exploded, after all, is just the street. How then does the unfamiliar familiar now occupy space? Langston Hughes writes of a dream deferred, considering how and when the invisible materializes and what occurs when it reaches its limit. Does it sag or does it explode? I reckon it explodes. Donald Barthelme, in his short story from 1969 called The Balloon, speaks about this space of the invisible. In his story, the feeling of absence between two bodies materializes as a balloon, whose volume grows larger and larger as time and life carry on. This notion of mass, of volume, of the impossible weight of being and the rigors it takes to carry onward are what informed my first sculpture and film made in the streets of Philadelphia 20 years ago. This 8-foot-tall vinyl ketchup bottle was sewn while I was hospitalized for several years in my early 20s, during a time in which the tenant of my home was misbehaving, so to speak. It was at this time that the violence I endured markedly ended the previous relationship I had with my body and with myself, wherein forever after I became a ghost, and I would begin to haunt. Lightning has struck this house, and here I am, born, the divided self. So happy birthday. This led me to create my first possession, which is based on a photograph of Klaus Oldenburg carrying an oversized toothpaste bottle in London. If Klaus's interest in making colossal monuments stemmed at least in part from a love of the object, here a bottle of toothpaste, I too then wanted to express how much love I had for ketchup, and or still show how the invisible labor of love and service might look like if it materialized as a ghost, as a replicant, as an alien, as a body to contend with. My relationship to the double, the doppelganger, the ghost, the avatar, or the proxy, continues to grow out of an interest in the mechanics of empathy. This is not to say I am easily empathetic, but that I strive to understand what I cannot. For instance, why does Marshall Mathers have my face? I want it back. Or rather, do I have his? Am I the anti-hero? How is it that a straight, white, misogynistic man be cosplaying as me, a gay Hispanic softie? What do we share? Which side of the glass am I on? What is true life anyway? I think of the 50-year-long career of Mr. Rogers' character and his work on unraveling and understanding difference, connecting with every person in the neighborhood, even the most wicked. And if we wear these costumes, painting our house a different color depending on the season or our taste, what then do these colors signify? So why is Pink Panther so pink? And what about Popeye's greens? Or this lady in red? How do we leave the home each day, head out to the streets, and be born again, leaving the shell of yesterday behind and still keep all the receipts? And who is the perfect human then? In an interview late in Boris Karloff's life, he spoke of his most celebrated character, Frankenstein's monster, as being the closest friend he had ever had. What has always struck me about this is that the character exists only beyond the screen, through the glass. A fictional monster played by Karloff himself could also be his closest friend. Oh, what a tiny fool. This is life on the streets. This is life on a line. This is life in a tiny box. Apologies, no sound again. We're just going to carry on. It is a small world, but I wouldn't want to have to paint it. This joke by Steve Wright was retold to me by my brother Americo, a lifelong house painter, over and over again. But he modifies his version just a little bit. His version goes, "It's a small world unless you have to paint it." For Americo, there isn't an option of wanting as much as there is an obligation, as ascribed by his occupation, to labor, for love, for survival, for habit or circumstance, but not without hard work or without desire to do otherwise. As a very young person, I wanted to work in the ink and paint department of Walt Disney Studios, and was devastated when I was told that I wouldn't be able to participate in that department because only women work there. Hannah Frank writes of this countless uncredited women who worked hand-painting animated cells for the better half of the 20th century in her book Frame by Frame. This is invisible labor, the invisible labor of love. When I was an undergraduate in printmaking in Philadelphia at the University of the Arts, I wanted to think about this kind of labor and devoted my work solely to the waitresses of the diner that I would frequent. Later, it was the nurses who cared for me during their graveyard shifts in the hospital. This is to say that my work in the simplest terms is portraiture. This image of Sister Corita Kent's Mary's Day parade is just that, a parade of politics and people, art and life, compressed and confused, a portrait of their times then and our times now. This image served as the basis for my most recent exhibition, The Street, a show of reverse glass paintings, a show dedicated to the glass age. We are in our homes and on our phones. We are in the streets and we are making noise. What do we make of a life pressed against the glass, hoping to push through the screen? How do we acknowledge our bodies, our weight, the pressure of being, and how do we flip the camera back again on the world? I can see the whole room and there's nobody in it. What else can we say when words fail us? There are, of course, no heroes in capes. There is only the tiny fool, so speak up. I do not remember the 20th century, and yesterday I dreamt it was the 30th. But today I woke and it was 21. To be like driftwood, to remain fixed on the flex, the mutability of form, the transmission of self through the glass, to occupy the home and the street is to stand the test of time. And so with pride I sing. In the glass age, I celebrate the body and the ghost. I celebrate the hand and the glove. I understand that life is like a sandwich. I love it when it's here, and I miss it when it's gone. Again, no sound, but this is a video about a sandwich and loving it and losing it. If you could imagine the song by Leonard Cohen called Chelsea Hotel, there we go. I want to make noise and proceed gently. Endure when language and image fail us. If glass is the space between the house and the street, then maybe vines are the manifestation of this tiny voice, this noise. I think of O. Henry's story, The Last Leaf. A young woman, sick in bed, gazes out her window at the street. She makes a deal with nature to live through the winter until the last leaf on the outside of her house falls. A local sign painter invisibly intercepts this deal, painting a leaf onto the brick wall that she gazes at, quietly giving her the strength that she needs to endure. Again, invisible labor. It is my hope to be like the sign painter. It is my hope to be like the vine and rise out of this garden. And because there is no sound in this presentation, I'll play the next video and then we can just talk, because that's probably more interesting. So please, ask any questions that you have. It's quite unfortunate that there's no sound.
Do you want us to troubleshoot one more time? Just have it start.
You could try, yeah.
Where can we watch your videos with sound?
I know, that's the tragedy. You can't watch them online. That's why I bring them here. And it's so devastating. This is me as this little blue statue. I wore that prosthetic on my face for probably 16 hours. It weighed about 40 pounds. Eyelashes and all. We sing this song by Etta James called I'd Rather Go Blind.
Plug this in
Oh, yeah.
here. And if we could just open your system preferences here
Mm-hmm.
and get output to external headphones.
Boom, boom.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And you can turn your output volume up a bit too. Is there a player on the PowerPoint that might have a volume thing to it?
I don't know. You tell
You
me.
could try playing it again too.
No. It was playing earlier.
Right, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no change on our end. Yeah. We could play it now. Sorry.
There you go.
There you go. Cool. Thank you. I'm so
Okay.
sorry about that.
Should I rip back and watch? Grant. Well, I'll play this one first.
would rather be a blind girl, babe. Than to see you walk away from me, baby. Ah, yeah. 'Cause you see, I love you so much. I don't wanna watch you leave me, babe. And another thing is, I just don't wanna be free, no, babe. Ah, no. Now listen. I was just sitting here thinking, yeah, about your sweet kiss. Whoa, and your warm embrace, baby. Ah, yeah. When the reflection in the glass that I held to my lips, babe, yeah, yeah, yeah. Revealed the tears that was on, oh, my face, yeah, babe. Oh, yeah. Baby, 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 I'd rather be a blind girl. Oh, I'd rather be a blind girl than to watch you walk away from me, boy. Look out. Watch you walk away from me, baby, don't leave. Oh, now listen, I'm gonna tell y'all one more time. I was just sitting here a minute ago thinking, baby. I was thinking about your sweet kiss and your I was thinking about your sweet kiss and your ooh la 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 la. When I looked down in the glass that I held to my lips, I was looking in the glass and I saw the reflection of the tears rolling down my face. Oh, baby! Oh, hey! Oh, baby, I'd rather be a blind girl. Oh, Lord! Baby, 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 don't leave me, boy. Look out.
The light is always changing. The black and white horizon. I leave this redstone building because I rose. I rose out of your garden. And I'll walk across the rooftops. I am vast. I am vast. I am vast.
show you a couple more videos. We'll do this the goofy way, but goofy's good. Let's see. One second, sorry.
I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were talking so brave and so sweet, giving me head on the unmade bed while the limousines wait in the street. Those were the reasons, that was New York. We were running for the money and the flesh, and that was called love for the workers in song, probably still is for those of them left. Yeah, but you got away, didn't you, babe? You just turned your back on the crowd. You got away, I never once heard you say, I need you, I don't need you, I need you, I don't need you, and all of that jiving around. I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were famous, your heart was a legend. You told me again you preferred handsome men, but for me you would make an exception. And clenching your fist for the ones like us who are oppressed by the figures of beauty, you fixed yourself. You said, well, never mind, we are ugly, but we have the music. And then you got away, didn't you, baby? You just turned your back on the crowd. You got away, I never once heard you say, I need you, I don't need you, I need you, I don't need you, and all of that jiving around. I don't mean to suggest that I loved you the best. I can't keep track of each fallen robin. I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. That's all, I don't even think of you that often.
I'll show you one more video if you'd like. This Frankenstein video, just a piece of it. It's called Slow Graffiti. I made it for a show in Vienna a couple years ago, of course based on Boris Karloff and his relationship to Frankenstein's monster.
Here is the man. Here is the man. Here is the man. I've seen the man perform. I've seen the man try and hide. I've seen it once. I've seen it 1,000 times before. I've seen the man disguise himself and how he prepares for a role. Look at the fake ear and hear his knees, a foot, another deaf ear, his eye. Look into his make-believe eye. Then a mouth, his thirsty tongue, his one and only mouth. He's playing a monster. The monster moves across the screen wearing an ugly mask and not hearing me or anyone else. I can say whatever I want. I have narrated this picture before. Do it all the time. It's always the role of a lifetime. Let there be light. He can't hide, try as he might. Look at this lousy cocksucker. He's unmistakable and he's unrecognizable. He is weary. His weariness renders him quite useless. This very wicked, collapsible man in repose. The man at night making a pathetic attempt at connection. To connect with anyone in an empty room. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? Sometimes the devil will do. A man can boast of little happiness that does not enjoy the blessing of a friend, the intimate sympathy of a fellow mind, a dance partner. He was so terrible that he was no longer terrible, only dehumanized. The terrible man.
I'm gonna just go to another video. That was just a clip of that, but in the interest of time, I'm just going to show you one more video, the first one that I meant to show you, where I play Marcel Duchamp. It is from the last film that I made called Roy G. Biv. The little blue Muppet character that we just saw, that's the end of this film. This is the beginning. And just to give you a little briefer, Marcel Duchamp set up his dear friend Constantine Brancusi's artwork on behalf of Constantine Brancusi in the Philadelphia Art Museum. And so here I've remade this scene in which he plays a game of chess with himself and speaks about friendship, brotherly love, romantic love, etc.
We have come a long way from what we actually felt. The Christian monk John of the Ladder once said, "Take a hot stone with sharp corners, knock it and rub it against other stones until its sharpness and hardness are crushed by the knocking and rubbing. And at last, it is made round. I long to be round." Gertrude Stein once wrote, "Once upon a time the world was round, the moon was round, the lake was round, and I almost drowned. I long to not drown." In a year of 13 moons, 4 seasons in hell. This I pray. Dear God, if you are a season, let it be the one I passed through to get here. We have found ourselves almost drowned in sorrow and grime, but I ask, are we yet drowned? Are our edges softer? Are we ready to be born out of the house, up in smoke, to pursue the next you? Well, happy birthday, baby. So, I propose a bird in space to stand the test of time. Plumage is of all colors. Yet on the whole, yellow deepening to red is more common than blue. This light that does not touch us, does not travel the whole distance. The light that gets lost, the light that does not light on one side, gives us the beauty of the world, so much of which is in the color blue. This process of transformation consists mostly of decay, and then this crisis when emergence from what came before must be total and abrupt. And I think of how the hours passed in this house, and I assure you, they passed. But you did not take my heart alive. I live through a book of reproductions of paintings I love. I can only do so distractedly. I admire this work, but the images are frozen, and this bores me. So I cut them with a kitchen knife and knock them until they become round.
Thank you for watching and tolerating that. Do you have any questions about anything? What the weather's going to be like tomorrow?
I really enjoyed the use of sound,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm curious about, well, I guess first of all, it's like, are you someone that enjoys it seems like you have like a relationship to sound and music. Is that important to your work?
It's very important to my work. Thank you. That's a great question. I'm trying to find an image that's fun to stop on. Oh, this one's fun. That's Patsy. Yeah, I love music. I'm tone deaf, so I don't know much about like the mechanics of music, but I'm someone who's a fan, and I work with very many talented musicians. Dev Hynes, who goes by Blood Orange, he composed the music for the Frankenstein film. Leonard Cohen, of course, that was his music for the Sandwich film. And then Austin Fisher, who is a producer of and frequent collaborator of mine, produced the music for the chess work. And then I work with other musicians or kind of borrow existing music and then kind of collage it into other music, etc. But it's very important to me. Yeah, I'm currently writing an opera, which is laughable because, again, tone deaf, but come to it. We'll see how it sounds. Yeah.
Sorry, you seem to like take on like roles a lot. Like you seem to like be really interested in like I guess putting on masks or like putting on like performances. I guess fascination with that?
I think when I was young and, I grew up loving Halloween and things like that. And so that was always interesting to me. Just culturally, it was interesting. But I think when like I first got really sick and was like deathly ill and then, did the whole death thing, and I like lived through it, I was really like disappointed that my body, in my early 20s was like, had like lied to me or betrayed me. And I was like, well, this body's like not working out for me, so fuck it. I get to do whatever I want. And that's sort of when I started like having like a deep interest in taking on these other personas, which I like to think of as possession or possessing, which is to say that like my life was not my own, which is to say our lives are not our own, and that like we don't go through the world without affecting others and vice versa. And so this like thing about exchange, if exchange can like afford you empathy or a kind of way of really understanding and checking yourself and checking your privilege or what is your present, then I kind of just, I sought to like, to figure that out more. And I'm not one to like be comfortable on stage at all. Even doing talks is extremely difficult for me. And, in school I was like a wallflower. I probably have been a wallflower all my life. When I do these performances where I embody these characters, it's like a real work in itself to do it. I think it takes like 17 hours of makeup for me to even like feel remotely comfortable to do it.
That's really interesting. Thank you.
I think they are. I mean, like, I wanted to get to this. When I think about empathy, I think like this is a real challenge for me, because I was living in Paris at the time. A friend of mine sent me this photo of what I thought was myself in front of the Mona Lisa, and I like looked at it, and he's like, oh, like I saw this picture of you at the Louvre, and I was like, oh, like I was there, but I don't remember someone taking a photo of me. And then like I realized it was not me, that it was Eminem. And I was like, how is this like possible? This is insane. Like we don't look alike at all. But like in that moment we did, and we truly did. And so like, but I thought here's this guy that is like this thing that's very distant from me, both ethically and physically. Like he just seems like so far away. How could we share this thing? How could we share anything? And that like kind of got me started on thinking about like what it means to be empathetic, because like, I think we pride ourselves going through our lives saying like what I know is what is true, or what how I am is maybe the best I can be at this moment, say, maybe. And then when that was taken away or challenged, I was like, what? Geez, like who am I to even say, or who am I to ever say like that X is X when X could easily be Y? And so this notion of like really like coming undone and kind of reevaluating, I guess this was a couple years after I had been really ill, but like that I was reminded again, like if I thought, oh, like, how dare he or whatever, that kind of like virtue signaling thing, how could one make a song that's so violent, and there he like had the same face as me. I was like, well, who am I? Like I'm probably inflicting other kinds of violence in the world, I just don't know it, or I'm not being checked. And so that thing about empathy sort of grew from there. I mean, I like walked around like him for 10 years. Like I embodied him. To the point where he like reached out to me, and as people did, not like to send me a cease and desist, but to like just sort of say like, oh, you're this stan, you're like a fan. And I was like, I don't think you understand. It's not, and this was like right ahead of like when stan was going to enter like the Merriam, like it was going to enter the dictionary as like this like ultimate fan. And I was like, oh, it's not totally about fandom. It's about like, it's not that actually. It's the opposite of fandom, but it is an appreciation for someone who seems to be very different than me. Did you have a question? I work with my studio, who consists of lots of different types of makers, textile specialists specifically, but they all kind of are like built out of a conversation between myself and my studio. It takes an immense amount of labor. That's a great question. I think about it all the time, but like there's so much invisible labor involved in just like having a studio with 10 people in it where everyone gets to come to work and like make like Muppets or whatever we're making, like that's like not an automated thing. Nobody wants any of this stuff. So it's like, then you have to do all this other labor to like find value in it and keep it, equitable and kind and searching, and not have it be just about capital. But of course, like the world runs, like we live in a capitalist society, so there's that. And like, how do you find value in that, or find ways to make value of these things that might not have value? It's a whole thing. It's a whole journey. It's like I'm never not working to find a balance there, so that people can, have jobs and be gainfully employed sewing or doing painting or whatever it is that they are doing for a job. I hope that answers the question a bit. I think that, like, when I think about modernism, I think about like a white cube, both, sure, the white cube as like defined by a gallery space, but like a white cube, like this white piece of marble or something that is like fixed, whiteness and corners and cornerstones, and how I like want to completely like detonate that. And so glass, I was speaking with a friend who kind of thinks about glass as this like non-binary material because it's like hot and cold, it's like liquid and it's a solid, and it is also transparent and it's breakable, so it like has this capacity to change, and it also like proposes that it is, I don't want to say the word true or something, but that it proposes that it is also like clear, or that everything that's at stake and at play is visible. And so like so many of the bodies that I'm possessing are, these like typically straight white guys, and I'm kind of like coming for them in a way, not to say that all that they did or all the ways in which they have participated are wrong, but to find some way where their lives and my life or my experience I can understand them in relationship to each other. Because so much of this like cornerstone kind of has excluded so many people's lives and been so violent. And so like, for me, it's not to say like, it's too easy to say, nope, that's it, all of their work was just like for naught. It's to say, I understand, I may disagree at times, but here I am still standing and in relationship to that history. So how do I check it and then kind of complicate it for the future? And so I think returning to glass in the 21st century is like to say, let's build a new cornerstone that is made of glass or some kind of material that has a capacity to sort of accept and be strong, but also be malleable, that they can both be at play, that you can be soft and you can be hard, and that's cool and hot. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.